Hi, I'm Steve Foran. I'm a son, brother, husband, father, grandfather from Halifax, Nova Scotia. In a former life, I was an electrical engineer with a power utility for more than a decade. Figuring out how to make things work and keep them running at peak capacity, it's in my DNA. Now, I teach business leaders how to build and maintain workplace cultures based on gratitude. And it's a bit like engineering. I get to help my clients design business cultures that generate momentum for lasting change. Instead of electricity, we're working with the power of gratitude. My interest in gratitude surfaced in graduate school. I wanted to know what drives people to care, to help others. What motivates people to give their time and effort, and often large sums of money, to charities and community organizations. I was especially curious about their impulse to share their wealth. My research pointed to one thing: gratitude. I discovered that gratitude, not a desire for recognition, not guilt, not external pressure, but gratitude, that was the motivation for their need to give. And for me, this was a seminal light bulb moment. So in 2005, I started speaking about my research and the impacts of gratitude. What started as conversations in our community soon turned into sessions with organizations and business leaders across the province and across the country and eventually into the United States. Every day I'm grateful I get to work with leaders who want to use gratitude as the foundation of healthy, productive, achievement-based cultures. The rapidly expanding field of positive psychology has discovered that gratitude is the foundation of a positive mindset. A grateful frame of mind is a level frame of mind. Appreciating what you have makes you feel good. And when you feel good, you can do more for yourself and more for others. I witness the impact of gratitude every day. And in business, it's the foundation of successful teams. Gratitude at work is about giving your people the tools they need to build a stronger, more positive, productive culture. Needless to say, I'm grateful to be a part of it.
Well, good afternoon, friends. Good afternoon. How are you doing today? Hope you are well. Steve, can you hear me in the green room there, my friend, still? Wonderful. 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 Welcome to another episode of Conversations with Dune and Friends. Today we have a wonderful and a fantastic friend joining us all the way from the Halifax area. And we have Steve Foran joining us, folks. And by the way, as you are joining us in the conversation here, feel free to comment in the comment section there. Shout out to Steve and say hi and encourage him and ask him questions if you like, and certainly participate with us along the way here. So let me do, again, a quick introduction of Steve's background here. Steve Foran, P.ENG and MBA. Now, Steve's dream is 1 billion happier people. So 1 billion, folks, happier people. While not the typical career path of an electrical engineer, he began exploring the relationship between gratitude and philanthropic giving while completing his MBA. Since then, he has been writing and conducting practice-based gratitude research and teaching the habits of gratefulness close to 15 years now. And what has emerged is his science-based program, Gratitude at Work. It's a simple yet innovative approach to thriving leadership and business growth. He founded Gratitude at Work in 2007 and started hosting conversations with his community, in which has since grown into work with leaders across Canada, as well as into the United States. Shifting cultures and helping leaders and their teams bring together gratitude to work every day. His 2019 book, Surviving to Thriving, The 10 Laws of Grateful Leadership, was named one of the 8 best recommended reads by Greater Good Science Center at the University of California, Berkeley, and one of the 5 positive psychology books for Happier 2019 in P.ENG. Also, in 2018, he was an inaugural winner of Canada's CEO Trusted Advisor Awards program. And in 2017, he was awarded the highest earned designation in professional speaking, the CSP, Certified Speaking Professional. He is a son, a brother, a husband, a father, and relatively new minted grandfather. His kids poke fun at his gratitude at work, air quotes, as we are heading into 1 billion with an online community that gives everyone access to the secrets of gratitude and grateful leadership. He's a lifelong resident of Halifax, Nova Scotia, and trying to do his part to make his community a better place. So with that, friends, please help me in giving a warm welcome to our guest today, Steve Foran. Hey, Steve, how are you doing today, my friend?
Fantastic. Where could I be in a better place, Dune, than with you? So really pleased to be here with you and the team of folks here listening, tuning in, and watching.
Cheers. Now, in my case, I got orange juice going. I don't know what you got over there, but
I got water.
All right, cool. So Steve, give us a bit of a backstory. Wonderful video, and I know you shared some of the details in the bio there that I just went through, but what got you here, my friend? You've done some big things and some very noble things. Tell us a bit more. Tell us more.
Yeah, and maybe I'll start in the middle. Like,
sure.
Imagine street corner 1995. This guy comes up to me, looking for money, and like, money? You want money? Go get a job. This is my money. I earned this money. Like, you want money? Go work for it. Anyhow, I'm Canadian, Atlantic Canadian. That didn't come out my mouth. It was in my head. And that really came out of growing up, the oldest of 5, which gave I think I've always had I think the right terminology is internal locus of control. You feel like if you need to make something happen, it's your responsibility to do it. You don't look to others. So there's a bit of sense of that. And I think it comes from being the oldest, but oldest don't always have it. But with that comes a lot of judgment, right? And so I was always very positive, but very judgmental. And so what my mindset was in 1995, and really up to that point, was I did it on my own. Like, I'm this self-made man, self-made person, right? And it was within the next 4, 5, 6 years. It wasn't just like that overnight. It was this gradual realization that my life was handed to me on a silver platter, Dune. And that was the thing that made me start realize, you go from thinking you did it all yourself to realizing the household I grew up in, the time in history I lived, the country I'm born in, the schools that are there for me, the hospital and healthcare systems that are there, all these things were there. You still got to work. I still had to work, but it was just, I went from thinking it was all me to so much. I did stuff, but there was so many other people did to contribute to it. And that really kicked open this door, this window into gratitude and gratefulness that really got me thinking about it and started me on that research path. And then eventually looking at my wife in the eyes and saying, "Hon, I think I got to do this for work."
So, as the world tend to think about us MBA graduate who wanted to pursue, business, and perhaps there's even some extreme views of that particular designation, that particular master's in business administration. So it's certainly a little bit of something that you didn't plan for. When you went and pursue your MBA, you probably didn't predict the career path that you would be taking. Hey.
It's interesting you say that because I started my MBA in 1989. This is a 2-year program, right?
Yeah.
And I was at an electric utility, engineers everywhere. And like someone told me, you want to rise up, you got to. So I started taking my MBA part-time. I don't know, 3-4 years in, we had a young family. I was 2/3 of the way through and I quit. I felt I was learning more at work than there. And I walked away from it. And my wife just about, you didn't even talk to me and you just quit. Like she was looking after the kids. She was invested in this as much as I was, right? Taking care of things.
Yeah.
And she said, you got to finish it. You got to finish it. You got to finish it. And I had no intention to finish it, Dune. And then my boss at work, he said, whatever happened to that MBA you started? And I told him, and he's like, you got to finish it. You got to finish it. So probably in late 99, 2000, 2001, I said, I think I'm going to do that. Yeah, it was 2001, 2002, somewhere around there. So I took about 7 years off and I went back to finish it. And I was like, I want to do something in my MBA that will enable me to do something after, like, I don't know what it, and Dune, your point was that you said is like, who would have known where it went? I said, I'm going to do something there that I'll be able to do on my own when I'm done afterwards. And I had no idea what it was. And it wasn't until almost the last night of the last course I took before the research that I was like, it made me, that's when the light came on. Literally the last week of classes, it was like this idea of gratitude came to me. And in 2003, 2004, when you walked into the dean's office in the business school and say you want to do research on gratitude and charitable giving and stuff, you got a weird look, man. Let me tell you, today you could probably do it because of CSR and everything that's going on in the world. There was none of that back then, man. And it was just like, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's fair. Thank you for sharing that, because really the again, another example of when your heart is not into something is a bit of a grueling thing to go through, right? So, I mean, in your deep down, you were aware that this typical quote unquote MBA path was really not for you, but then eventually realizing the importance of finishing and realize the importance of kind of almost like, wow, shall we use the word pivot? I know it's overused, but that's what you did. You actually say, well, you know what? I got this MBA education, just pen into it rather than going with the flow. You created your own secret sauce there, my friend.
A lot of things had to happen, but yes, I'll take that. But it was something I was searching for, and and in the search for it, I didn't know whether I was going to find it. So lots of fear, frustration. Like for me, I describe it as this search for purpose, Dune.
Yeah.
Because I believe we're all here on this earth for a reason, and I was looking for it, and I was hoping that I was going to find it. And some people can find it just like that. It took me a while to find it, but I was really looking for it.
Yeah, yeah. Now we're going to go back in time and various times along the way on the timeline to get to know you better and to hear the lessons and the challenges you bump into and how you overcome them and those things. But I'm going to advance to the present day for a moment. With COVID being the context for all of us, how are you spending your time these days, my friend? Has COVID, how has it impacted you and your business and your work, as well as family, kind of challenges as well, right?
Yeah, we are, I think we're fortunate to live in Canada. We live in Nova Scotia, and the Atlantic region in
Mhm,
Canada is one of the safest places in the world right now, just
mm,
because of the way things are structured here in this Atlantic bubble. We've been fortunate in our families that none of us have directly contracted COVID. Uh, we have parents and relatives who would be immune compromised, and they're fine. And our family's doing fine.
yeah,
The business in March was significantly affected when all of the in-person events were either postponed indefinitely or rescheduled till next year. And I was like, went away on vacation in early March thinking, man, this is going to be my best year yet.
mm,
And then coming home from the vacation, because the whole shutdown happened when we were away,
yeah,
I was thinking, what are we going to do here? And
mhm,
it was just like on the plane on the way home, I put out a program. I was thinking, I can take this thing that I've been doing in person, and I did it 2 or 3 days with a group before we left on vacation. I said, I want to take that, and I'm just going to go back to my clients and say, if you've got 60 minutes with your team, I've got this program that's going to help people deal with the biggest challenges that they're facing. And I did that probably 20 or 30 times. I don't know. I've surpassed, I've done, not surpassed, I've done more than 50 virtual presentations or programs and facilitated them, anything from an hour to 6 hours. And
mhm.
if you would have told me I would have done two of them or one of them in January, I would have said you were crazy, because I'm one of those guys who said, you need me in the room. Like, I got to be there, right?
Yeah,
And I love being in the room, but I also love holding space with people. And just as you do it right now, here,
mhm,
right now, doing this interaction, you're creating space and holding this space for us and anyone who's a part of it, whether you're here now live or
mhm.
whether you're tuning in. And you're doing this is kind of this virtual world, and so more of my time is spent doing this type of, I want to say, stuff, whatever it is, but connecting with people and
Yeah,
really trying to have a different way to get the message out about the power of gratitude and gratefulness.
yeah, yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And so it sounds like you're well on your way in transitioning over to the new way of doing things, to the current way of doing things, to the reality. You know, uh, one of the things about gratefulness is you have to be grateful for our current reality, not grateful for what we had and wish we have it again, because that's outside of our control. The only thing, one of the things that we can control, you spoke about, locus of control early on, is in fact our attitude, our thinking, our in this case, gratefulness or gratitude. Yeah, I mean, in many ways, the new world, the world the way it is right now, has different needs, different problems, different challenges that we certainly can be a part of the solution.
Yeah, there is no question that we have total control over our attitude.
Mhm.
It doesn't mean it's easy to do, though, right? Especially
Yeah,
when we're in the midst of challenges, it can be really, really hard,
yeah,
right? To be able
yeah,
to find the good in situations like this, because it's easy to say.
yeah,
And one of the things, let's go back to 1995 on the street corner, the
yeah,
judgmental guy there looking like with his eyes in the eye, you want money, you go get it. Like, I'm just very sensitive to, not holding the belief that you should be grateful in this. I believe
mhm,
that you have much to be grateful for, that you are
mhm,
worthy, you have much to be grateful for. But each of my other belief is we each have to find it ourselves. And
mhm,
I'm not grateful for COVID, but I can find gratitude. I can be grateful in this situation, which is
yeah,
really about, where's the good here? I'm
yeah,
going to look for the good, right?
yeah,
And when I do that, it puts me in a different mental framework, a
mhm,
different mindset, totally different. And it puts me in a mindset that the type of mindset that you and I, that we need
Mhm.
when we're in the midst of challenge.
Yeah. Hey, I'll meet your friend Gordon. Hey, Gordon. Gordon Bros from. Actually, he was in the same school that I was in. We're literally in the same grade school together, graduating. I think a different year, but good to see you online here, Gordon. And Gordon said I had the opportunity to have Steve take my team through one of the 60-minute sessions that you referred to, Steve, and it was fantastic and really positive to help my team through some difficult times in the spring. So. There's a good friend chiming in.
Yeah, well, it's funny. Gordon sent the note too. So we had this other common interest that we were otherwise unaware of, and Gordon's team was, just that never repeated again event, right? That when those people came together and supported each other, it was very powerful. That those 60 minutes, Gord, wasn't it? We have talked about it before, so it was really, really good to see. And thanks for that shout out.
Yeah. So tell us, thank you, Gord, for interacting with us, and keep it going, my friend, and invite others who are watching right now as well as later in the recorded version. Feel free to interact with us, and we get more out of the interactions as well. So Steve, in terms of the your current kind of COVID operations, do you do everything out of your office mostly, or do you do some limited client visit that's socially distanced, or how has that played out in the last few months?
Yeah, no, I've got a number of clients that in groups of less than 10, we've been doing our programs since late June together, face to face, socially distanced. In every client that I work with, and when you're in public or moving spaces in their offices, we wear a mask. But when you're in a meeting room, you can have your masks off. 3 weeks ago, I did my first all-in-person event for a client. The room was the size of a ballroom, and I think there were 17 people that we were working with. So we were all spread. Everyone was spread out.
It's like
so there is
Canada. It's like Canada landscape indoors, lots of space.
Yeah, it absolutely is. That may be changing. I had a meeting earlier today scheduled, and we were going to meet in a coffee shop, and we've had a few more cases that have started to pop up in our region, and we just made an agreement in our household. We're not going into any public spaces that we don't necessarily that would be considered optional. So we did probably a 5 or 7 kilometer walk on a trail, and I've got another one on Friday with a client. And when we're done here, I'm going to message him and say, look, Bill, why don't we just move to as opposed to meeting at the coffee shop, let's go to the trail that's near your office and have our conversation there.
You bet. Yeah. Well, thank you for being very mindful of it, and also being very pragmatic about making it work throughout the changing and evolving situation here. So take us back, my friend. We're going to hop into that time machine. We're going to go back. We're going to go back to actually all the way back. You started the introduction sort of in the middle there in 1995, but you mentioned that you were born a little bit. As you mentioned, everything was handed to you on the silver platter kind of early on, if you will, in life. Tell us, describe your upbringing a little bit for us. Let us know who we're talking to here.
Yeah. So it's kind of like the middle class home.
Yeah.
We didn't go on fancy vacations. We didn't have all the latest toys. As the oldest, I got new clothes, right? And then when I was done with them, we'd hand them down, right? And but it's like I'd say it never felt like we were doing without Dune.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And had my first paper route when I was 13, I guess, and then started working at the grocery store at 15. And when I was 16, my wife started working at the grocery store. Of course, she wasn't my wife then, but and she tells the funny story that first time she saw me, She
Hmm.
said, "I'm going to marry him." And
Oh.
I don't even remember it, right? And I had never, she was my first girlfriend.
Hmm.
And we met at this grocery store. We lived like 2 streets apart, but I went to the Catholic schools and she went to the non-Catholic schools. And we would have had to walk cross paths, I don't know, 4 times a day, 3 years, never once saw each other,
Right.
never once met. And then at this grocery store, we meet. And then we got started going out together in high school. And this past summer, we just celebrated 35 years of marriage together. And I kind of wonder, how could someone do 35 years with me?
Wow, that's a great story.
Um,
Again, you never know who you're going to meet your spouse in terms of. For me, it was actually college. I met my wife in college, and yeah. So tell us a little bit more. So sounds like you had safety, abundance of safety, and abundance of peace, and just really growing up in a very
loving, caring home.
yeah, comfortable environment. And we all have our challenges, but so then tell us about the whole gratitude thing. How far have you taken it? You've taken it to the point where actually describe it for us. Describe the organization that you've been kind of developing, and the reach that you've had with that particular project, or turned into a big thing.
Yeah. So when I had this aha moment, right,
Yeah.
realizing that it's as if my life was handed to me on a silver platter,
Mhm.
it just was that to me, it had such a profound impact on how I saw my life, how I made sense of myself as a leader, as an individual,
Mhm.
right? And seeing so many other people. And it's not that I didn't
Mhm.
see all the people who helped me, right? It's not, but never with such clarity.
Mhm.
And it was just, it had such a profound impact. I just said, I need to start doing this. And I think this is where this language might sound crazy or hokey, but I feel I'm being called to
Yeah.
do this, right?
Mhm.
And so I started having conversations after I left my job and with people that I used to work with, and some would say, "Well, like, did you have a health scare? Did you travel somewhere to the developing world and see something that just had such a profound impact?"
Mhm.
And I look them in the eyes and say, "No, I didn't."
Mhm.
And what I've realized, there's a gift in that, because not everyone has that opportunity to see something like that. And the thing is, what my gift in this and what I believe is, you don't actually have to have that happen. You
Mhm.
don't. If you, if we, when I took a serious look at what I have and who I am, and it was the same I had that same realization that I hear from many people who have a health scare, that they dodge it, and it's like, oh my goodness, I was taking so much for granted. I wasn't taking care of my health and my life and the relationship, all these things. And my encouragement to you is, we don't have to wait for that. It can actually happen. And but I didn't know that at the time. So when
Yeah.
Jeff asked me that question, like a month after I had left, and he's like, "Well, good luck with it, Steve." I'm all like, he was supportive, but man, I don't know how you're going to do this.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
Because there wasn't a lot of,
Yeah.
it wasn't quite as popular as it is
Yeah.
today, the whole idea and concept of gratitude. And I say popular, but just maybe accepted is
Mhm.
or more mainstream. It is much more mainstream now than it
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
in
We were
2006,
ahead of our
2007.
time. We were ahead of our time, and I must say that for some people, for some of us, COVID can act as that wake up call, can act as that reflection point where we get to say, "Oh, do I really want to do everything the way I did it before COVID? Do I want to think quite exactly the same way I was thinking before COVID?" There's an opportunity for all of us to pause and recalibrate, I think.
You know, I don't, I've got nothing to add to that, because you're bang on, Dune.
Mm.
You're bang on with that.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
Yeah, because with my experience, with my background, I can tell you for sure, and I can tell others for sure, that adversity is a great teacher. Adversity is a great clarifier. Adversity is a great, there are lessons that I've learned that I would not have learned if it wasn't for the adversity. There's decisions that I've made that I would not have made if it wasn't for the adversity. So every time I see adversity come around the corner, of course, you have to kind of deal with it. And you gotta, it's going to be painful. But at the same time, you can look at the flip side of that and say to yourself, what opportunity do we have to adjust our perspective or thinking or actions or habits or whatever have you? We have
Dune. It was 10 years ago that
Gordon has a question here as well.
I see Gord has a question here. I just wondered, just to pick up on your last comment there, it was 10 years ago that I met you. You shared your story at a convention that we were at together, and it is definitely a story of adversity and challenge, and in the midst of it, I don't know, I'd be pretty hard pressed to say that, were you grateful in the moment, but through it, as you look back, being able to see the good and how it shaped who you are as a person and where it's taken you in your life and all these things, it really is gratitude is a powerful way to reframe and make sense of the challenges that get put into our lives. And everyone's got different ones either. And I kind of say, it's not a competition who has the biggest challenge, because we all have them. Yeah. It's just a matter of being able to step back to deal with them. So anyhow, Gord's question.
You go ahead, Steve. He says, question for you both. How do you expect your speaking engagements to change post-COVID?
Yeah, there's going to be a lot more like this. Mm-hmm. I do believe we are going to get back face-to-face more gradually. Mm-hmm. A month ago, I did a session with a leadership team of 35. And as opposed to having 35 people in one room, I was with 8, and in 4 other locations were between 4 to 7 people. So 35 people were gathered in 5 different locations. I've only had one all-in-person speaking engagement, but I think there's going to be a lot more of this in the interim where we'll be doing it, and we're still in person. We're face to face this way. We're not physically in the same location. And the beautiful thing is, when I look into the camera, if there's 500 people in the room, I'm looking in the eyes directly of 500 people.
Yeah.
If there's 500 people in a convention hall, I can't look at 500 people, right? And if I'm looking into the camera, you see me looking directly at you, speaking directly to you. And the gift here is that as a speaker, that's someone in an audience, you want them to feel that you're talking directly to them, not how is everyone today? No, how are you today, right? That type of language. So I think we're going to see more of that. And then when it's all done, and let's say the world's back to normal, this is an additional thing. Every client, this remote connected, that will be able to build in. So I think clients are going to be able to get more value from speakers, because they can say, okay, you come in and do your keynote and a breakout, and then 30 days later, we want you to do 2 one-hour sessions with all the folks that attended, but do them on Zoom or WebEx or whatever it is that you use. And so there's no additional travel costs, and so benefit to the client, and also benefit because they're able to get more value, help things stick, and benefit to the speaker because they're able to offer more value, provide more services, and do it in a way that doesn't require a lot of travel. So I think there's going to be a lot more opportunities that come from it as well. So, yeah. Dune, I'd be interested to hear your Your take on this as well too.
I agree very much. I agree with it very much. And I must say, when you say travel, we have to think of not just the speakers travel, but the participants also travel. I mean,
All of it.
particularly larger organizations where people are from all different locations and whatnot. When there's a big event, there's a lot of travel by the participants as well. And so here's my prediction. And I made this prediction a number of months ago, right when COVID started. I made the prediction that we would actually, this pie that we call events and this pie that we call, what do you want to call it? Professional development, inspiration, whatever you want to call it, event stuff, is actually being enlarged through COVID. It is being enlarged. And then the percentage of that makeup of that pie has shifted significantly to, the pie's like this. First it shrunk. And then after, we realized that COVID is not going to go away in 2-3 weeks or 5 weeks or whatever, it's starting to grow again because it needs to. The needs is still there. So it grows again. But within that pie now that is growing, there's less of a percentage to in person. But as we continue to grow the pie, there'll be a more higher and higher percentage. Probably maybe never the same percentage as it was before. But who cares about that? Because the pie is actually much bigger. And so now you have, in-person sessions, you have really virtual, completely virtual, or you have blended, right? And blended could be the way that you describe, where you're in one location with 3 or 4 locations, but blended could also be how do we watch hockey games? It's blended. There's a live hockey game, 15,000 people at the stadium or at the arena. But there's many thousands and millions of people watching live at the same time, especially if it's a playoff kind of season, at the same time. So this whole hybrid has always been there. How do we watch David Letterman? How do we watch concerts? But what happened is it's always been very expensive to produce. With technology and everybody learning technology, we're getting to a point where it's very accessible for the likes of us to be able to do those hybrid events or blended events.
Yeah, think of the timing, Dune. If this was to have happened 10 years ago, for a speaker to be able to equip themselves to do the types of things that in a matter of weeks, and in some cases just even with your webcam and a mic on your computer, that you're able to just very quickly, boom, and you can go. Like 10 years ago, it would have been a much steeper curve to make that happen, right?
Yeah. So, in short, I think with any time where, I keep going back to remember how we refer to the 20s as the Roaring 20. Why was it roaring? Well, we just finished a major world war, right? We just finished making our way through the Spanish flu. The world
Another pandemic.
Another pandemic, and it was completely, obviously, a very, very challenged place, a very dangerous place, a very dire place, even worse than we are today, because at least we have all the stuff that we have today that they didn't have 100 years ago. But why was it that the 20s was roaring? Well, one of the reasons is just like the fire in the forest, it destroys a lot of stuff, but green growth happened after that, fast growth too in some cases.
Too, it might be interesting too, Gord, if you were to chime in with just some of your thoughts on the other side, for your organization. You've worked in some really big companies and stuff. How do you see this affecting events and teaching and learning and bringing people together, and how is it going to affect you guys in your business? And just kind of, if you have some thoughts on it, throw them in the chat. I'm curious.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Thanks, Gordon. And so Gordon, just for our viewers who might not see it on screen, who might be just listening only, just great responses. Just to do this conversation between the three of us, 10 years would have been difficult. Now, here's an interesting thing. Yeah. Gordon, if you were wanting to actually join us on video, we actually, a couple clicks and you'll be on here with the two of us here, my friends. So we have all kinds of options these days to do that, right? So thank you for your comments, and Gordon. So let's continue on that path of, again, gratefulness, sure. Right? Have you worked mostly in North America, and do you see the differences between your work in the US versus Canada? You focus mostly in Canada. Tell us a bit more about that split.
Yeah, most of my work has been in Canada. COVID has actually opened up work into the U.S.
Mhm.
And starting next week globally, which I don't know if it would have happened or not, or at least this soon.
Mhm.
But maybe I'm just not the smartest or sharpest knife in the drawer, Dune. But when people really show up as themselves,
Mhm.
take off all the armor and the image, the mask that they wear, and gratitude has a way of helping us do that.
Mhm.
I don't see a lot of differences.
Mhm.
When you go from place to place,
Yeah.
there's this bit that people are people. There are some languages that don't have a word for gratitude,
Mm.
right? That it isn't a word. Like in Dutch, there isn't a specific word that they label gratitude. A colleague of mine, she's a Dutch researcher in gratitude, uh, in area of gratitude, and she came to research gratitude because of an experience in her life where she felt gratitude and was unable to label it.
Oh, wow.
The label they had was happiness.
Mhm.
And then as she started digging, and later she was doing some research in psychology, she was doing school, she said she saw English papers and saw the word gratitude.
Mm.
So it's like she's since developed a gratitude scale for the Netherlands, for Dutch speakers. And so even though they don't have a word for it, they
Mhm.
still experience it. And
Yeah.
and even what you could consider, a that might be considered a real bottom line focus culture, that all if organizations care about people, and maybe this is why I answer the way I do.
Mm.
As long as you're caring about your people,
Mhm.
I haven't seen these significant differences in Canada, in the US, in the limited amount of work I've done outside of North America, and right across.
Yeah. I think your video is frozen there. So can you
Yeah,
hear me?
yeah.
Yeah. We just have a minor glitch there. That's like it came back, so we're good. So let me ask you another question. In your definition, I don't want to assume that I have the same definition of gratitude as you do. So how do you define gratitude? Tell us a bit more about that.
Okay, so there's a couple things that need to happen. There's really three things that happen. And when they happen, you experience this feeling of gratitude, of gratefulness. One, you need to receive something that is a benefit to you.
Okay.
So that's number one. When you receive something that's a benefit to you, that's first condition. Second condition, it was costly to the person or the benefactor, whoever that is, or group, right? So it was costly to them, or you interpret it as costly. That's actually what it has. Because if someone helps you and you don't think it's costly to them, boom, second condition isn't met. So
Mm.
number one, you got to receive something that you value. Two, you perceive it as costly by the person who provided it. And three, you perceive there's no strings attached.
Mhm.
Like they're not looking for anything back. So when those three conditions come together, you feel gratitude. We feel that, and we do it without even knowing those are the three conditions that have to come together but it's wired into us, right? As in our humanity.
Yeah. Do me a favor, summarize the three words. I'm going to put them on the screen for our folks here. The three words.
Okay.
The three concepts.
Three words would be receive something of value,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Uh, Costly to the provider, no
Yeah.
strings attached.
Wonderful.
And
And that
I
is
know it's
why
not one
sometimes when
word.
we receive a very small, modest gift from a person or a group who we know have very little, when somebody gives us a shirt on or off their back, we don't think about how beautiful the shirt is. We think about what that decision was to actually give their only shirt off their back for us, right? So again, it's great. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Costly to provider, and the other thing is to no strings.
No strings attached, right?
Yeah.
Because if someone wants something, but we know, right? And it's how each of us makes sense of it. Because you'd have two people in the same situation, and if they don't make sense of it, it's not value to me, or I don't believe it was costly for them. And costly is the word, but there was a sacrifice. It might not be a financial cost. It could be a reputational or time.
Yeah. Yeah. Wonderful. Now, Gordon chimed in again here, and thank you so much for Gordon, for your continue comments here. It cut off a little bit, last bit of it, based on the way the screen works here, but let me read it through here. Gordon said, quick thoughts on a recent set of meetings we had. Yes, it seems like there's more blended learning, and maybe even provide more options for individuals attending a virtual conference. Rather than just one speaker, might be possible to choose the top, right? Choose as they travel. Cost time would limit things. Let me just say that again. Rather than choose just one speaker, it might be possible to choose the topic that fits your need. It may also make things easier to smaller organizations to bring bigger name speakers if they choose, and travel time wouldn't limit things. So in other words, it becomes a global stage rather than now imagine if you go back 100 years, the speakers that would be in the room would be the one in that village, because you could not, go over to, and then all of a sudden we have, transportation vehicles, and we have flight, and we have jets and whatnot. And it became speakers come to you, but there's all kinds of costs. Now with this scalable technology, we can come to, Africa, South Africa, with almost the same kind of cost as it would take to come to the next door down the street, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So technology and practices has really removed the distance from the equation as a limiting factor. So thank you, Gord. I think we both agree with you on that as well there. So it certainly has some new opportunities embedded in all the challenges, right?
Yeah, it really does. And doing just the thoroughness in which you prep your guests, there's a lot of work that goes into making sure, even with glitches and everything, there's a lot of work that goes into making sure that things go off more smoothly. And so when you're on the remote end, there is more responsibility and work that a speaker has to do besides just show up and talk and just, you do a lot to prep your guests to set them up for success, not just for you, but for them and for the audience. So that lighting's right, volume levels are correct, that if there is a problem, Steve, here's what you need to do. And if you have any issues, here's how you can reach me. All of these types of things are happening without anyone else knowing. You're like the duck who's got all these things going on. Your feet are going below you 1,000,000 miles an hour, but above the surface, no one sees it, because you know exactly what you're doing and how to do this. So that is part of the speakers that continue to master that, because it's a journey, are the ones that organizations are going to say, okay, we want to bring you back, Dune, because our folks really appreciated not just your message, but just the professionalism and how it was delivered, and it was just so there was no issues. It was seamless.
Yeah. As they say, when things go right, a lot of people don't notice it, but when things go wrong, people do notice it, right? So our job is to make sure that we do what we can to take care of things where we can, right? Where we can.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to bring in another thing here to kind of share again, and let me just go ahead and do that here, and tell us about this the Gratitude at Work blog that you have. It's the I'm just going to bring in the screen here, but tell us a bit about that.
Keeping level, I started doing a video blog in 2000, I don't know, 2010, 2008, and I did a video every month. And then once everyone started doing video, I stopped doing video, because it was like I felt like writing is the new video.
Yep.
And it once I went off from doing it monthly, and for a year I did a weekly video, right? And I just doing your daily sessions that you're doing, these daily sessions. It's just I know how much work that goes into just producing a video, but this blog that I have, it's really just my way of just continuing to write about things that I think are important, that are related to gratitude, that can help us just have it's just my gratitude lens on whatever tends to be happening in the world. And it's been less regular. I'm probably writing once a month now on average. And for 2021, I haven't decided how frequently I want to post, but this latest one was published last month in October. It's about some recent research, the latest research that's come out on gratitude, specifically gratitude at work, not my company, but the act of being grateful at work and the impact it has on civility, gossiping, and ostracism. What these researchers found is that people who made lists of what they're grateful for, their colleagues reported that these were, nicer people. They were more civil. They didn't gossip as much, and they didn't ostracize people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Compared to others who just journaled or thing. And there was only one condition. The condition where it was different, it was if the employee's perceived perception of culture was that was a grateful culture, that was the condition that needed to be in place. So it really reinforces that, if you're going to implement gratitude at work, you have to do it because you care for your people, not because you want something in return.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. And again, what you mentioned there about the
what do we got up here?
Yeah. Once people realize that the culture is valuing gratefulness, then they tend to go with it, and so they tend to be influenced by it. So folks, when you are being grateful and when your organization is being grateful, you actually influence the world positively because you're modeling a behavior that people may follow, that people may embrace. So the more of it we show, the more we in fact are changing the world in that way. Can you hear me still, Steve?
Yeah, it is learned, and it is something that we can grow and develop, just like a muscle. And it's really a muscle in our brain. It's not a muscle in our brain; it's the actual neurotransmitters and the connections in our brain that get strengthened when we the parts of the brain that get strengthened when we focus on the good and we experience gratitude.
Yeah, cool. I want to ask maybe a different question. Do you have something that people would be surprised to hear or learn about how gratitude works and how we can be more grateful? Is there a bit of a secret, a bit of a kind of counterproductive or counterintuitive thing, I should say, about gratefulness?
There is one thing that's counterintuitive. That maybe not counter. There is one thing that's not good. And that's trying to force being grateful. Like if you're in a situation, and you hear someone maybe tell a challenging story about a life challenge that they have, and they're talking about everything they're grateful for in it, and they might be a year or 2 years or 10 years out from that situation. And this person, I could never imagine being in this situation. How could they, I admire them so much for being able to find so much good. And then they look at their own situation, which might be totally different, and they can't find anything to be grateful for in it. And trying to force themselves to do that is actually harmful, right? So if you can't find something to be grateful for, it's okay. Just give yourself a break is kind of what I say. But the counterintuitive thing, I think the thing is that gratitude actually makes us more likely to achieve important life goals. And I remember I was doing a session for this group of business owners, And I didn't know that previous fact.
Mhm.
And one person got up, and it was a really influential group. And it was just like, it was the time that when I'm speaking to this group, it's just like, Steve, knock it out of the park. And do you know the amount of repeat business you're going to get out of this? That's because there's 40 of them. They all run big companies. And the guy says, if I let my employees know that I'm grateful for them for something that they do, then they're just going to take it for granted, and they're going to slide. Well, Dune, I didn't have an answer for him. I didn't have it. It was one of those things, when you're driving home from something, whether it's a presentation, whether it's sales presentation or you're a speaker, and the answer comes to you on the way home, and you just go, why didn't I have that then?
Yeah.
That was one of those moments. And it's like, so, and his fear, so this guy was operating from a place of fear, thinking that if he let his people know that he appreciated them for the work that they did, they would. The thing is, the reverse, to care about them, create them, they'll actually be more productive. They'll actually spend time going to help a stranger. And counterintuitive, but it can be, especially from a fear-based mindset.
Hey, Steve, if you could step the resolution to 720, that would be good, because I think things are struggling there to render the 1080p resolution there, my friend. If you can hear me, if you can step the resolution down to 720, that would be good. That will be a little less demanding for what internet speed we currently have. All right.
So not done fully yet.
Yeah.
There we go.
All right.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if we were having some technical. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So could you maybe repeat just the last few seconds of the last thought on that thread there?
Oh yeah. So this what I realized is that this guy was operating from a place of fear. And what he was afraid of is that if he praised his employees and said, "Great job, I really appreciate you and the work you do," is that they would think, "Oh, I'm doing a good enough job. I don't need to stretch." Right?
Here from your website.
I care about you as a human being.
Yeah, I'm going to play a quick video, and while I do that, if you could do me a favor, Steve, and do a reload or refresh on your browser, that might help the situation here with the technical thing. So I'm going to, if you can hear me, let me know. Go ahead and do a refresh on your thing.
Yeah, I can hear you.
You bet.
Yeah.
So given that, I'm just going to bring in this.
I'll refresh.
You bet. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. I'm going to go back to the kind of original website here. Here we go.
Hear you, or I can see you.
There you go. So hopefully we're
okay
over that. So tell us a little bit more.
Apologies on my end, Dune.
Tell us a bit about the when you work with gratefulness kind of as a topic. Do you do mostly a corporate thing? Do you do some government thing? Do you find that smaller organizations are interested, or how does that work for you in terms of your customer mix in the past?
Yeah. Most of it's corporate, most of it's private, privately held companies, some publicly traded, but it tends to be, or at least my work has tended to be, privately held. Have done, government. This year I've done stuff with, provincial governments, have done stuff with the federal government for quite a bit over a number of years. And then changed very abruptly, about 4 years ago, 5 years ago. And so I do some government work, but not as much. But most of it tends to be in the corporate, and 4 to 6 conferences a year probably might be the other piece. So most of my stuff tends to be in the corporate world.
Yeah.
So
let me ask you this: how does, in your mind, how does gratefulness factor in with mental wellness and mental health? Can you maybe map those two for us in your own perspective?
Yeah, the research that's out there is, and actually we got to preface this with, if you are having any type of mental health dilemma or crisis, is that you need to see a practitioner. You need to talk to your doctor. That is the number one thing that you need to do.
Mm-hmm.
But we do know that gratitude, it's a resilience builder, and it insulates us from things like aging, hopelessness, depression. Some medical practitioners will use gratitude as an intervention tool, as a way to work with a patient to help them build a more positive frame of mind. And granted, we don't want to force this, right? Because we don't want to make this go down a negative slope. So we don't want to force gratitude, but it really has the ability to do that. And even on the medical health side, the benefits of gratitude, how we get them, and the cause and the effect, the mediating things in the middle, we don't have it all figured out yet. So they did a study on cardiac patients at a hospital in the US, and they took a third of the group and had them made a gratitude list for 2 weeks to 3 weeks. They wrote, I think, 5 things they were grateful for. Another group just wrote about their day, and the third group didn't write anything. So they do that for 2 or 3 weeks. They come back 6 months later and they check heart health, right? Because these people all had serious cardiac surgery. Mm-hmm. Who has the better heart health? It's this group that made their gratitude lists, right? And why? Not exactly sure, right? And similar with diabetes, and similar with people who suffer a traumatic incident. So the post-traumatic recovery tends to be quicker and more impactful for those that have a gratitude intervention or a practice that is part of their treatment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let me share this video here. It's called How Grateful is Halifax? But of course, that question could be posed about any city throughout the world. Yeah. And tell us about the clip before I roll it here, Steve.
Well, it is. It's anything but viral, but it's had more view. Like I've been doing up to this point, I've been doing videos, once a month for 8 years, and this video in 1 hour and probably 30 minutes got more views than every other video I had done combined. And as a speaker, I don't even say a word in this video, which is kind of neat, but it's a bit of a social experiment. And we just kind of said, how might we be able to see how grateful our city is? And so we just went out to 6 different places in the community and held the door open for 100 people and just kept track of everyone who said, thank you. So,
and the beep that we hear is every time, a door is open, there's a beep there. So folks, if you're hearing beeps in your speakers, that's intended.
It's perfectly okay. Yeah.
So were you surprised at the results, or did it confirm what your thinking was? Or
Yeah, I thought we would have a lot of people say thank you. And after probably 40 or 50 doors, I was thinking, we're going to have 100 out of 100.
Mhm.
And, there was a couple of media interviews afterwards, and everyone was always interested in the one.
Hmm.
What do you think about that person that didn't say thank you, right? And you can get focused on that. That's our human tendency.
Mhm.
And I was just like, well, you know what? I don't know what it was like to walk in their shoes that day. I don't know what they were thinking in their, whatever was going on with them. And if I was looking for a thank you in return, then what was the motivation for me doing this, right? Because do you remember the 3 conditions for gratitude? Like if we want someone to feel grateful,
Yeah.
something of value to them, something costly, someone holding the door open for you. Okay, that's of value to me. Costly to someone else. They took their time to do this. Expect something in return. So if I'm expecting a thank you, why should they be grateful? You know what I mean? So it's like, that's not why we did it. We just did it to have some fun and just to see what would happen, and really to not hold judgment on anyone for saying thank you or for not saying thank you, for that matter, Dune.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. I'm just going to put that little text right there. So tell us, Steve, as you look into the future, 10 years, 20 years, do you think gratitude is going to go out of style? Do you think it becomes less mainstream? Do you think we're going to go back to the way we were 100 years ago when it come to thinking about and talking about gratitude, or is this trend continuing?
I think we're on an upturn. I really do.
Mm-hmm.
Google has a neat thing. You can put any word in Google, and they'll show you the number of appearances it has over human history in printed works.
Mm-hmm.
And so we did that with the word gratitude, and I think it's called N-gram. So if you go into Google and N-gram, and for most times it easily comes up. If you go for a definition of a word in Google, you can see its use in history. And it hit an all-time low in the late 1990s, early 2000s. It's been on a rise since then, and it's continuing to rise. So I think it will continue to rise. It was in the early 2000s, late 1990s, early 2000s, the John Templeton Foundation stepped up. He believed that gratitude was a game changer. And he brought some researchers together, said, I need you guys to prove it. And that's really that was the start of it. And it was down south. And Bob Emmons was one of those guys that was in that room initially. And he's really one of those people that's been out there on the front. And he's at the University of California at Davis. And I think we're going to see more of it. I also think, yes, it will have that. There'll be some, is it a flavor of the month? Will something? I do think that. Whether I still plan to continue with my, work with it, whether or not popular culture thinks this is really important or not. But I think, like most things, it probably will wane or ebb and flow in popular culture.
Yeah. So just a inquisitive mind wants to know: gratitude versus gratefulness. Is one word more proper than others? Or are they both interchangeable? What does the gratitude expert say?
Yeah, well, think of gratitude being. We can use it as a noun, or an adjective, or a verb. And I even say gratitudes. I'll pluralize it, and because gratitude, being grateful, in that sense, I think it's an adverb. Anyhow, my English is probably showing it. Mr. Allman, I'm sorry. My grade 10 and grade 12 English teacher. But really, in essence, it's the same thing, whether it's I'm grateful, or I possess gratitude for you, Dune, for initiating this conversation, or I'm grateful that you and I have had this conversation. So really the nuance, just different word, but really same meaning.
Potato. So thank you. And I wanted to maybe ask you a couple more questions here before we head our way to wrapping this up. So Steve, as you think about, again, in the context of COVID, again, taking us back to COVID, and a lot of people are really hit hard with whether it's work life or even personal life. How does one try to, do you have any ideas for how they could increase their level of gratitude in the midst of unprecedented trying times here of COVID?
Yeah. Thanks for asking that, Dune. And it's one of those things that, it's a very, very simple thing. Just find a time in the day that works for you, and just say, make a commitment for the next 30 days, or if that seems too big, the next week. Make a commitment to once a day record 3 things that you're grateful for, and record them. Don't just think in your mind. Either get a pen and paper out and write them down on a pen and paper, or in a notes on your phone, record them. That extra step of using another sense has a greater impact on how it can affect you mentally in your brain, and how your brain is wired and how it functions. And it's cumulative. Gratitude and it's a practice like this, making a list of what you're grateful for. It's a practice, just like exercising is a practice, or playing a guitar is a practice. You take 10 minutes every day and practice guitar. Dune, am I going to get better at the guitar versus just sit down once, play it for an hour, and then come back 3 months later? Like, just that daily practice of making a list of what you're grateful for. And I really encourage you to take that extra step and record it. It's harder, but because it's harder, it actually has greater impact on how your brain is impacted by it.
Yeah, wonderful. That makes sense. Certainly, you don't say, "Oh, I think exercise is important," but you don't do any exercise, and then you don't get any benefit of the exercise. Oh, I think guitar practice is important, but you don't spend any time practicing guitar. You're not going to get better at guitar. So let me ask you the next question, though. Do you think there's any value in sharing your gratitude with others? Is it a double-edged sword? Is it what are your thoughts on, okay, I'm grateful for what I have. I write it down. I remind myself. I recognize it. But what about sharing it with others, whether in your family or others on social media? What are your thoughts on sharing the gratitude?
That is the leadership practice. That is just, I am all over that, right? Sharing our practice. And I even before sharing, because it's connected to another one, and that's consuming what other people are grateful for. And it's like reading or listening to what other people are grateful for, because what that is, that's the non-judgmental, no agenda comes with it, hope, inspiration, fuel. On a daily basis, I will read 10 to 20 other people's gratitudes. And I've been doing that for reading other people's gratitudes for 10 years. And I've upped it to 10 to 20 about 5 years ago. And I do that every day. Yeah. And it's just so for me to be able to consume someone else's gratitudes, they have to be sharing them, right? They have to be talking about what they're grateful for. So absolutely critical. It's one of the 4 gratitude habits is sharing what you're grateful for. And when we do it, you can think, oh, gee, how do I, am I bragging? Let's not do this in a boastful way. Let's do it in a very reflective way that we're just really honors. Gratitude is about others, less about self. And when you frame your gratitudes, if you think back to the value you receive, the cost that someone else have, every gratitude can be framed either a benefit to you, right, or a cost of someone else. Dune, I'm so great. Thank you for having me on your show so that I can get more exposure and more people will understand the power of gratitude. Benefit to me. Dune, thank you for having me on your show. I appreciate you putting your social capital on the line and risking your by bringing me into space with your audience, right? Same thing I'm grateful for, but framed two completely different ways.
Now, for our viewers, could you maybe summarize or just repeat the 4 again so that we have it clear for everybody? So the first component is to practice it, right?
Yeah.
The second is?
Yeah, there is 4. There is 4. I only mentioned 3 of them. So the first one is make a list of what you're grateful for.
Yeah.
2 is consume what other people are grateful for. 3, share your gratitude with others. Your gratitudes, what you're great. Just tell others what you're great. You could record it, post it on Facebook, wherever it is that's good for you. Text a buddy, both every day maybe. And 4, this is the external side of it. This is the more active side. Say thank you. Express your gratitude in a way through some action. Smiling at someone when you see them on the street. Taking a little extra time when someone serves you at a grocery store or at a coffee shop. Say, look, how's your day going? And taking that extra time with it.
I see.
And yeah.
In other words, take some actions because you are grateful, because you have that gratitude.
Right? It's two-sided coin.
Yeah.
Internal feeling, and then there's the action part of it. So the 4th habit is the active component where because when we're grateful, we're compelled to do something, and that's wired into us. Yeah.
Immediately, my mind goes to the idea of a little funny statement that says, you tell me you're grateful, but your actions don't convey that you're grateful. So again, once you made the list of what you're grateful for, once you consume others' sort of sharing of their own gratefulness so that you can be fed with that, and once you share your own so that you can propagate it and float it out there. But the 4th thing is to actually say, how does that change my actions? Do I talk differently in meetings because I'm grateful? Do I answer the phone differently because I'm grateful? How does that translate to actions? Cool.
Bam. You got it.
Can we do a high five?
Okay, right here. Sure can.
Oh. So let me ask you a different question then. When I reach out and say, hey, Steve, would you like to chat for an hour and a bit on the gratefulness and gratitude and a number of related things? Were there areas or topics that we haven't gotten to that you like to kind of shed a spotlight on, my friend, before we get into some wrap-up mode here?
We covered a lot. No, this is, I think we covered a lot of ground, Dune. If I had some technical problems there with people cutting out, I apologize for that. I think the thing that would be important to just kind of underline this with, it's very simple. And I just caution you to resist the temptation to not give it credibility because it's so simple. It's something very simple. It's not easy, especially in the midst of challenge and everything going on around us, but there's very simple practice. If you're saying, nah, that's way too simple, if that's what you're thinking, now I challenge you to do that 30-day or 1 week or 10-day challenge of writing what you're grateful for. And if it doesn't work for you, let me know. I challenge you to let me know.
There you go. So folks, he has thrown down the gauntlet there and issue a challenge to all of us to be taking that action of writing things down in terms of again, what we're grateful for, ideally every day for as long as you can commit to it and be able to see the change in our thinking and our actions and hopefully our lives and the lives of those around us. Because again, we affect the world through the way we perceive the world and through the way we think of the world, and therefore we act a certain way, and through that we make an impact. So it starts with the thinking, right? Cool. So let me do this, Steve. Before we wrap up, I'm going to just thank our viewers there, and then I'm going to actually turn it over to you to take us home in whatever format you like to. Some of my guests, I say, if you like to sing us a song. If you like to, one guest did some juggling magic, silly human tricks and whatever have you. So I'll turn it over to you to kind of wrap it up in whatever way you want to. But before we do that, first of all, I want to express my gratitude to you and taking the time to spend with us today, Steve, on this topic of gratitude and the power that it has in our world, even in tough times, and particularly in tough times, I would say. So with that, I'm thankful for all of you who have tuned in to watch it live here, as well as those who watch the recorded version of this video. And thanks to Gordon and those of you who commented along the way, and much appreciated. And hoping you have a great day after this, and take good care of yourself, folks. Take good care of one another. And so with that, Steve, after we're done here, I'd like you to hang around in the green room for a minute or two, but it is yours, my friend. Take us home in however you like.
Okay, well, I'm going to play a voicemail that my grandson left me a couple weeks ago. I went out for a walk, and I went out for a walk right around bedtime. And so he lives with us. We live with him. And as I was going, I wasn't really thinking he's going to want to go. So I'm going out the door. Bump, don't go. And he calls me Bump. So he says, don't go, you can't go. I said, I'm going for a walk. And he kind of calmed down. So I go to close the door, and then he's back again. And it's like, I talk him off the ledge, and 2 or 3 times. And eventually it's like, okay, he's good. And so I close the door and go for my walk. What I didn't realize, he had a complete meltdown, like complete meltdown. And I come back from my walk, and there's a voice message text that my daughter sent me. And I'm going to play it, and you should be able to hear it clearly. And Dune, give me a thumbs up, fingers up if you can hear this. And just...
Hi, Bump. I want to tell you something, but you're gone and you're on for a walk.
So what did you want to tell him? Tell him now.
I love you. You're kind of fat. You kind of fat.
What?
You're Bump. You're Bump. You're Bump. You're so boo.
So if you listen to that again, which I'm not going to subject you to, he went from a condition, if you listen to his voice, where he was totally panicked, in fear, everything's gone wrong, to he made a joke that my daughter he didn't even know he was making a joke when he said, you're kind of fat. But Steph kind of like laughed, where'd that come from? And laughed, and that triggered him. That was the wake-up call he got. And at the end, heard him kind of going, you're so boo. Life is a playground. He went from battle zone to playground in 70 seconds because someone shook him.
Yeah.
Thing is, we all don't have someone there to shake us. And so we need to be that person that can shake ourselves. As the sooner we can do it, the better. And gratitude, I'm just come to tell you, is the tool that you can use to help you find the good in your life today, so that you can say, Bump, you're so boo.
And for those who don't quite know what boo means, translate it for us.
I have no idea what it means. I have no idea what boo means. You're so boo.
Yeah, it sounds like an endearing term to me.
I think you're right. I don't know.
By the tone.
I'll ask him later tonight.
By the tone of it, right? So here's the thing. I really appreciate you just sharing just off the cuff here. I do want to bring in a couple comments here. IJ, our friend IJ McIntyre said, thanks a million, caught the end, and look forward to watching the recording too. So, and then Gordon, of course, chimed in again and say thank you. And so thank you, my friend. It's been a good conversation. And again, as you said many times, it's not complicated. It's quite simple, but it is not easy, and it is very important. Yeah. All right. Well, on that note, folks, have a wonderful day. And again, thank you, Steve. You've been listening to Mr. Steve Foran, and have a great rest of your day, my friend.
Yeah, thank you. You too, Dune. Thanks for tuning in.